Hello, dear friends. Welcome back to this cozy little corner where stories come alive and where every life, no matter the age, carries wisdom worth sharing. Today, I want to introduce you to someone remarkable, James, a 62-year-old retiree from a quiet town in Ohio. To outsiders, his life looks ordinary, simple home, quiet routines. But behind that calm facade is a man who quietly built real wealth. James wasn't born rich. He didn't seek fame or luxury. Instead, he followed a path of discipline, smart choices, and intentional living, far from the spotlight. Today, he shares his story: how to get rich without anyone noticing, 9 easy hacks. These are strategies for people who value freedom over flash and peace over popularity. Let James show you how to build quiet wealth and live free on your own terms. And if his story touches your heart, leave a number 1 in the comments below as a sign of shared feeling. And don't forget to share this story with the people you love, because maybe, just maybe, it's exactly what they need to hear right now. In a modest brick house on a quiet street in Dayton, Ohio, 62-year-old James Thompson sips black coffee on his porch, watching the morning unfold. To neighbors, he's just Jim, the retired school administrator who mows his lawn and waves hello. But beneath his unassuming exterior lies a fortune carefully built over decades, not through luck or flashy ventures, but through discipline, patience, and a commitment to staying out of the spotlight. James didn't inherit wealth or chase fame. He worked hard, lived humbly, and built an empire in the shadows. Now, he's sharing his 9 timeless strategies for getting rich without anyone noticing, offering Americans a roadmap to financial freedom that doesn't require fanfare. Through his story, James hopes to inspire you to build wealth quietly, live intentionally, and create a legacy that endures. Number 1. Live below your means, the foundation of quiet wealth. James learned early that wealth isn't about what you display, it's about what you preserve. Growing up in a working-class family in the 1960s, he watched his parents stretch every dollar, sewing patches on jeans, and cooking hearty meals from scratch. That frugality stuck with him. In his 20s, as a young teacher, James drove a used 1985 Chevy Cavalier, lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, and shopped for clothes at Sears clearance racks. When he got a raise or a Christmas bonus, he didn't splurge on a new TV or a flashy watch. Instead, he saved 70% of it, investing in a small mutual fund and keeping his lifestyle steady. Looking rich costs money, James would say, his eyes crinkling with a knowing smile. Being rich gives you freedom. Living below your means, he explains, isn't about deprivation. It's about rejecting the American obsession with status. In a culture where social media flaunts designer bags and leased luxury cars, James urges you to resist. Drive a reliable Honda or Toyota, live in a comfortable but modest home, and skip the $300 sneakers or $1,000 iPhone upgrades. When extra money comes, a tax refund, a side gig payout, or an inheritance, don't let it slip through your fingers on impulse buys. Why does this matter? Because every dollar spent on appearances is a dollar not working for you. James cites a 2023 study showing that 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, often because they inflate their lifestyles with every raise. By keeping your expenses low, you create a surplus to invest, compounding your wealth over time. For James, this meant buying a modest home in 1995 for $80,000, which he paid off early and which now appraised at $250,000. His advice: audit your spending monthly, cut non-essentials, and channel the savings into assets. Living humbly isn't just practical. It's a mindset that frees you from society's pressure to perform. Number 2, flip money fast. Turn cash into growing assets. James calls cash dry powder, a resource that loses value daily due to inflation. In his 30s, he realized that letting money sit in a savings account was like watching ice melt. His solution: flip it into assets that you appreciate. Money's only good if it's moving, he'd say, leaning forward in his rocking chair. Whether it was real estate, stocks, or a side business, James made sure every dollar earned was quickly invested. Take his first real estate venture. In 1998, James bought a duplex for $120,000 with a 10% down payment, renting out one unit while living in the other. The rental income covered his mortgage, and by 2020, the property's value had soared to $300,000. He also funneled $200 a month into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund, which grew steadily over decades. These moves weren't flashy, but they were deliberate. James's rule: keep an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months' expenses, in a high-yield savings account, but invest everything else. Why is flipping money so critical? Inflation, averaging 2 to 3% annually, erodes cash's purchasing power. A dollar saved today buys less tomorrow. James points to the 2022 inflation spike of 9.1%, which crushed savers. By contrast, assets like real estate and stocks historically outpace inflation, with the S&P 500 averaging 7 to 10% annual returns over the long term. His advice: act fast. When you get a paycheck, bonus, or windfall, allocate it immediately. 50% to investments, 30% to savings or debt repayment, and 20% for living expenses. Automate transfers to a brokerage account or real estate fund to avoid temptation. By flipping money into appreciating assets, you build wealth that grows quietly while others watch their savings dwindle. Number 3, stay off the social media radar. James grew up in an era of rotary phones and handwritten letters, but he's keenly aware of today's digital traps. Social media's a stage, and not everyone's clapping for you, he warns. In his 40s, as he built his rental portfolio, James avoided boasting about his properties or posting about his side hustles. He saw colleagues flaunt new cars or vacations online, only to attract envy, criticism, or even lawsuits. For James, wealth building is a private endeavor, not a public performance. In 2025 America, where Instagram Reels and TikTok videos glorify lavish lifestyles, James urges a low digital profile. Unless your business requires an online presence, limit your activity. Skip the posts showcasing your new investment property, your brokerage account balance, or your side hustle's latest win. Oversharing invites scrutiny. Nosy neighbors, jealous coworkers, or even scammers. A 2024 Pew Research study found that 70% of Americans feel pressure to curate a perfect online image, often leading to overspending. James's solution: go monk mode for a year. Delete social apps, focus on your goals, and reconnect with real-world priorities. If you must engage online, use platforms like LinkedIn strategically. sharing professional milestones without revealing personal wealth. For James, staying off the radar preserved his peace and protected his assets. The less people know, the less they can judge, he says. By keeping your digital footprint small, you safeguard your journey and avoid the temptation to seek validation through likes. Number 4. Invest passively in ETFs and index funds. James isn't a stock market guru, and he doesn't claim to be. His investing strategy is straightforward. Low-cost, diversified vehicles like exchange-traded funds, ETFs, and index funds. You don't need a bet on the next Amazon, he says, shaking his head. Slow and steady builds legacies. In his 40s, James automated $300 monthly contributions to a Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF, using dollar cost averaging to buy shares regardless of market fluctuations. He reinvested dividends, letting compound interest work its magic. Why ETFs and index funds? They're low risk, low effort, and historically reliable. Unlike individual stocks, which require analyzing balance sheets and market trends, ETFs and index funds track broad markets, reducing volatility. A 2023 Morningstar report showed that 90% of actively managed funds underperformed index funds over 10 years. James avoided crypto and meme stocks, knowing that speculative bets often lead to losses. His ETF grew from $10,000 in 2000 to $85,000 by 2020, a testament to patience. His advice: open a brokerage account with Fidelity or Schwab. Choose a broad market ETF like VTI or SPY and automate contributions. Set a fixed amount, say $200 a month, and stick to it, ignoring market dips or hype. Reinvest dividends to accelerate growth. It's not glamorous, James admits, but it's how folks like me, without fancy degrees, build wealth. By investing passively, you let the market work for you, quietly compounding your fortune. Number 5. Diversify with multiple income streams. James spent 30 years as a school administrator, but he never relied on his $60,000 salary alone. A job's a foundation, not a ceiling, he'd say, his voice firm. Earned income is taxed heavily, up to 37% federally in 2025, so James diversified. In his 30s, he started a landscaping business, mowing lawns on weekends for $500 a month. In his 40s, he consulted for local nonprofits, earning $1,000 per project. Later, his rental properties brought in $2,500 monthly. These streams didn't just boost his income, they slashed his dependence on a single source. Why multiple streams? A 2024 Bureau of Labor Statistics report showed that 40% of Americans fear job loss due to automation or economic shifts. Side hustles provide security and accelerate wealth. James suggests starting small, freelance writing on Upwork, tutoring online, or selling crafts on Etsy. If you're tech-savvy, create digital products like ebooks or courses. For those with capital, real estate is king. Buy a duplex, live in one unit, and rent the other. Everyone sees you at your 9 to 5, James says, but you're building an empire after hours. His landscaping business, for example, grew from a push mower to a crew of 3, netting $20,000 annually by his 50s. He reinvested profits into more properties, creating a virtuous cycle. The key, he stresses, is consistency. Start with one stream, master it, then add another. By diversifying, you build resilience and wealth, all while looking like an ordinary worker. Number 6. Protect your wealth with LLCs and trusts. James is meticulous about privacy, especially for his businesses and properties. When he bought his first rental in 1998, he formed an LLC to hold it, shielding his personal assets from lawsuits and keeping his name off public records. Each subsequent property got its own LLC, a strategy he learned from a real estate seminar. "You don't want folks digging into your business," he'd say, half laughing. For his landscaping business, James used an LLC to operate professionally while staying anonymous. He hired a CPA and attorney to ensure compliance, saving thousands in taxes. YLCs, they limit liability. If a tenant sues, only the LLC's assets are at risk, not your personal savings. They also obscure ownership, deterring nosy onlookers. A 2023 National Association of Realtors report noted that 30% of rental property owners use LLCs for privacy and protection. James's advice: consult a lawyer to form an LLC for each side hustle or property. It costs $100 to $500, depending on the state, but it's worth it. For larger portfolios, consider a trust to further shield assets and simplify estate planning. And stay quiet. Don't brag about your LLCs at the bar. The less you talk, James says, the safer your wealth. Number 7. Give generously, but anonymously. James's faith taught him to give, but his humility kept it private. He donated 10% of his income to his church, slipped $500 into a struggling neighbor's mailbox, and funded scholarships for local kids, all without fanfare. Giving's about impact, not applause, he'd say, his voice softening. In a world where charity often doubles as a social media flex, James advocates anonymity. A 2024 Gallup poll found that 50% of Americans feel pressured to publicize their good deeds. Resist, he urges. Drop off a donation without signing your name. Volunteer at a food bank without an Instagram story. Help a friend quietly. For James, giving cultivates abundance, reinforcing that wealth is a tool for good. In 2015, he anonymously paid a student's $10,000 college tuition, never telling a soul. The student's thank you letter, addressed to an angel, still sits in his desk drawer. His advice: budget 5 to 10% of your income for giving, whether to charity, community, or individuals. Do it quietly to preserve sincerity and avoid attention. The world doesn't need to know, James says. Your heart does. Number 8. Build a low-key network. James's closest friends weren't the loudest. They were the wisest. His inner circle included a teacher who flipped houses, a nurse with an Etsy shop, and a mechanic who saved 20% of his income. None cared about impressing others. Your friends shape you, James says. Pick ones who value growth over glitter. In America's consumer culture, where 70% of households carry credit card debt, James advises curating a small, intentional network. Avoid people chasing status. They'll push you to overspend. Connect with those who share your discipline. Join real estate meetups, attend financial planning workshops, or bond with coworkers who save diligently. In 2005, James's real estate friend tipped him off to a foreclosed triplex, which he bought for $150,000 and sold for $400,000 a decade later. That deal came from a quiet conversation, not a loud party. His advice: limit your circle to 5 trusted allies who talk less and do more. Share ideas, not boasts. A low-key network, James believes, is your secret weapon for staying focused and informed. Number 9. Never stop learning and adapting. Even at 62, James devours books, The Millionaire Next Door, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and listens to podcasts like Bigger Pockets. The world moves fast, he says. Stop learning, and you're left behind. In his 50s, he took a community college course on tax law, saving $5,000 annually on his rentals. He studies successful people like Warren Buffett, who built wealth quietly through discipline, not flash. Why lifelong learning? Markets shift, tax laws change, and opportunities evolve. A 2024 Fidelity study found that 80% of millionaires read regularly to stay informed. James recommends dedicating 1 hour daily to learning. Read investing blogs, watch YouTube tutorials, or attend webinars. Focus on your niche, real estate, stocks, or side hustles, but avoid get-rich-quick traps. In 2017, James skipped the Bitcoin craze, sticking to his ETFs, which outperformed crypto's volatility. His advice: subscribe to newsletters like Morningstar or Motley Fool, join a local investment club, and learn from mentors who've walked your path. Knowledge is your edge, James says. Use it to build wealth that lasts. James's journey isn't a fairy tale of instant riches. It's a saga of grit, sacrifice, and unwavering focus. He built wealth not to flaunt, but to live free. Free from debt, free from stress, free to give generously. His modest home, paid off years ago, hosts family barbecues. His investments fund his grandchildren's education. His story proves that ordinary Americans, teachers, nurses, mechanics, can achieve extraordinary wealth without shouting it from the rooftops. Don't wait for a windfall or a viral moment. Start now. Open a brokerage account and invest $50 a month. Research a side hustle that sparks your passion. Save for a down payment on a rental property. Every quiet step you take builds a foundation for freedom. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room. Let your wealth speak when the time comes. Now go build your empire, one humble, intentional step at a time. Peace. Thank you for taking the time to listen and walk alongside us. We hope today's story touched a quiet corner of your heart. Hold on to that feeling. And if you found even a spark of inspiration, we invite you to stay with us for the next stories to come. Each journey we share carries a message, a ray of hope, and perhaps it's exactly what you or someone you love needs right now. We'll see you again in the next story, where together we continue to share, to heal, and to move forward with hearts full of courage and hope.